yeah, baby. Hey, welcome to the Geeknd Live. It's the chat batch. Still got no branding. That's something I do need to fix for next week. But anyway, good to see you here. And by you, I mean Jane Flakes. Good evening to you, she says, my fellow Sith Lords, and all of you Jedi Rebels out there, one of which being Clays. Hope you're doing well, Clays. We've also got Mr. Matthew Stokes in the house as well. Anyone else who's here watching live in real time, and let us know. Say hello in the chat. If you are watching on the replay, aka in the future, say hello as well in the comments section. We're going to be talking about the Bad Batch episodes 4 and 5, which brings us right up to date after last week talking about 1, 2, and 3. Anders Lay is here as well. Hope you're doing well, Anders. And when I say we, I do mean myself and Mr. Chad Campbell of many things, really. Stopwatch fame, Star Wars Lunch Special podcast fame, Alamo Studios as well. Anything else I've missed out there, Chad?
I run a film festival, Kazoo 48, here in the States. But that's pretty much it. You got everything, man. I do too much. We go. Check out my Instagram. I label it all on there.
Okay, I haven't linked to your Instagram, but I have linked to your Star Wars Lunch Special podcast and your YouTube channel. So I think from one of those, probably YouTube, they can find you maybe on Instagram.
Yes.
But you can always shout out the handle while we're talking about it.
Star Wars Lunch Special is my Star Wars podcast. That's my one of my favorite things that I do on the side. And then the Alamo Studio, that's our YouTube page. But I haven't done anything in a long time. I have by the end of this year, I will have done 16 to 18 different projects. I've got some big stuff that I've been working on. But that's all very different stuff. And not all of it is posted on there because it's we did it for a business or something.
Okay, we lost you a little bit there, Chad.
I think good?
You're good now. Cool. We lost you a little bit there, but to be honest, you shouted out the handles or the channel names for the two things I have linked to in the video description. I meant shout out your Instagram handle so people can find you because I haven't linked to your Instagram.
Chad M. Campbell.
Anyway. Sorry, I spoke over you. Campbell. I spoke over you again. 3, 2, 1, go.
Chad M. Campbell.
There we go. And Chad was here last week, sat in that exact room, that exact position. He has been there ever since with the Phantom Menace on loop, right?
Yes. I got all the VHSs here.
Peter's here as well. Hello, Peter. Hope you're doing well. Matthew Stokes has kindly provided. Okay, so last week, if you weren't here last week, we talked warts and all about episodes 1, 2, and 3. I hadn't seen episode 4. That might have been the case for some others as well. Chad had, and his podcast was already out at that point, but he gave his kind of spoiler-free thoughts on it, as did others in the chat batch. And Matthew Stokes has recapped on some of those scores because we are going to talk first about episode 4. Chad gave it an 8 out of 10. Glenn a 9. Clay's a 9. Jane, she has her own Imperial scoring system, of course, 10 out of 12. And Matthew Stokes with the lowest, 6.99 out of 10. You do seem to be good now internet-wise, but we'll see how it goes. You did disappear on us once last week, but let's see if we can do this. Let's talk about episode 4 in a bit more detail. Then we'll probably spend more time on 5 because you did particularly anyway talk about episode 4 last week, and we had some comments in the chat about it. But a different approach. That's the name of the episode. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Nope, that's it.
First of all, we need to talk about something you brought up last week, which was the accent of an Imperial officer that you really built up for me. You were like, Jamie, I'm not so good on my accents over, on the British Isles, but hey, I'm pretty sure it was a Shrek accent, which is Scottish, right? And I was expecting Shrek, basically, as an Imperial officer in episode 4 of the Bad Batch, and he never appeared. And I got all the way through to the end and was like, well, where is he? It's finished. He wasn't in the credits even. And then I thought back and he went, and I realized you must have meant the Imperial officer that did not sound anything like Shrek. He was actually speaking with.
Yeah.
I thought either a
Yeah.
Yorkshire or a Lancashire accent, and somebody in the comments who corrected you as well also said Yorkshire.
Yes.
So let's go with Yorkshire. And to make it more international, because I realized the UK being a small country still has a crazy amount of accents. So I realized saying
Yes.
Yorkshire might not mean much to people, but Yorkshire is loosely the accent you hear in Game of Thrones, especially on the wall around there, those parts. So yeah, I think a bit of Yorkshire. It was certainly not Shrek. So apologize to Shrek and maybe even the nation of Scotland while you're at it. I almost called you Shad.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry to Scotland here and to everyone who speaks with a Scottish accent. I just assume it's Shrek because it sounded Scottish, but I could understand them. And traditionally, when you're speaking with a strong Scottish accent, I just have to nod and smile. So that's my go-to. I blame Mike Myers in America.
Who's actually got like Liverpool roots, I think, Mike Myers,
Yeah.
but which is not Scotland, Chad, before you get any ideas. Jane Flakes is also going with Yorkshire. Jane's grandfather is a Yorkshireman, so she hears it a lot. Good. Yorkshire it is then.
There we go.
Anders says, was great to see Crosshair go back to the outpost from season 2. Feel like him facing his past helped to move on. Okay, well, let's talk episode 4 before that. I was quite surprised to see the score that you gave it there from Mr. Matthew Stokes, because you gave it an 8 out of 10. But I kind of remember you not really speaking that highly about it, to be honest. Am I right in saying that? I feel like the comments in the chat were praising it more than you were verbally.
Yeah. The scores that we were getting in like here, they were higher than what I had. I thought it was fine. And technically, I guess the 10 out of 12, I don't know what that equals out to. It's like
only
8
Jane knows.
I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was outstanding. I liked the ending a lot. I liked them together. The card game aspect was cool, but I didn't necessarily think there was anything like that made it better than some of the other episodes. It was on par, but not. Some people thought it was the best, and I didn't think it was the best nor the worst.
I agree with you, absolutely. And the card game aspect was fine. The continuation of escaping was fine. But yeah, really my only sort of note of complete praise was the reunion at the end. I thought that was done very well.
Yeah.
The contrast of emotions with Amiga and Wrecker and Hunter, the warmth of that, then contrasted with the awkwardness and coldness of Crosshair popping out of the ship, and obviously that leads into the next episode as well. I thought that was done really well. And as always, the use of sound and the score.
I thought the score was fantastic in that whole end scene. Like the end scene was great, but the episode before that was, fine, but not necessarily outstanding in any aspect.
Yeah. So I'm gonna and this, I think, I had a couple of 6.5s last week. I had a 7. I'm gonna give this a 6.5 as well. Not the worst, not the best so far. 5 is average. 5 is average. This is comfortably above average. So I'm adding a 6.5. So I'm low. I'm the lowest.
There you go.
I don't remember everybody else's scores, but from the ones that Mr. Matthew Stokes has reminded us of, I am the lowest. But then, hey, what can you do? What was Peter's score? I know Peter's in the chat. I've seen his score for episode 5.
Episode 4. Oh, I think he gave it a 7.5. That's pretty high for Peter.
Well, that's episode 6, which he hasn't even seen yet because nobody has.
Oh, wait. Yeah. Well, at 107, he says episode 4, 7.5.
Oh, has he corrected himself?
Oh,
okay. He's corrected himself. Right. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me just check I didn't miss anything. Hello to Ross Jenkins. Hope you're doing good. We did Anders's comment about the outpost from season 2, which was a great episode of season 2. Jane Flakes on 4. I loved 4 because I cried at the end when Rekka and Amiga hugged. It was a lovely moment, and it was a better. I mean, I know I come into Rebels a bit different to most because I haven't seen it all yet, but I also didn't feel like, and I know a lot of people felt this, that the reunion between Ezra and Hera was done particularly well in Ahsoka. This was a far better reunion.
It was a pretty awful reunion, considering it's been like a decade since you've seen each other. He's like, "What's up?"
Yeah.
The end.
Like fist pump, film of our lives. Yeah. This was done much. This was written better, delivered, executed far better for me. Peter, Matthew Stokes is on this. Are you like writing notes each week? This is good. Peter gave 4.5, 5 point. Oh, wait, what am I seeing here? 4.4 or 5. I can't figure out what's going on here. There's commas and
episode 1 of 4.5, episode 2 of 5.
Yeah.
Episode 3, 7, and episode 4, 7.5.
I'm glad you're here, Chad. I get easily confused. Numbers, commas, it's just right, okay. Clays is impressed. We're all impressed. Peter giving a high score, and a higher score than me as well. Stato is in the house, yeah, which will definitely be if you think that Imperial officer was Scottish, you're definitely not going to know who Stato is. You're definitely going to miss that reference as well. Jane Flake says Ezra and Hera were hardly as close as they should have been. She was, after all, practically his mom. Okay, so let's see what Peter and everybody else thought of episode 5. So if you haven't seen episode 5, that's what we're going to talk about now. So warning, we are going to go into some details on it. So episode 5, Chad, the return. You have returned to the podcast scene. So your 15 minutes of rambling, I won't say ranting, that's for people to find out themselves, is out there live, linked to in the video description. So, say something for that, but give us your thoughts for the purpose of this broadcast.
Yeah. So episode 5, I enjoyed it. I especially really enjoyed the Hunter Crosshair dynamic that we have going on. Some confrontation within that. I thought the main plot was a little cheap because it's about a random creature underground that we have to stop, which is the same villain and plot as episode 2 of this season. So that was just like, it was cool because they were back together, but it's poor writing in that sense. And we're in the final season, so especially when you have 2 basic repeat episodes, it does take away from some of it on my score, but I enjoyed it. I thought that the relationships were well defined and continue to grow, and I like that. I thought that it'll be interesting to see the Hunter Crosshair relationship grow throughout the season. I didn't think we'd see it so quickly kind of come to a point. But I liked it. Jane, I agree the Beast was the subplot, but the Beast was still a repeat of another episode. And that to me is where it's lazy writing on my aspect for me, but I understand if people like it.
I feel like Big Bad Batch Beasts is just a common theme anyway throughout this show in general. I feel there's been a lot of them. And yeah, I did like Amiga's little kind of hound beast thing, giving the big beast a bit of lip, a bit of jip at the end. It reminded me of one of my little pugs because they always have that attitude when they see bigger dogs, yapping at them. Didn't like that little moment with the big beast. But yeah, I agree that the dynamic, the strongest point of this episode for me as well was definitely the dynamic between Crosshair and Hunter. It was quite childish at times. They almost came to blows, but like I felt it. I get its heaviness, and it's interesting seeing them like dealing with, particularly Crosshair, dealing with feelings. Because it is difficult for them, isn't it? These are clones that were brought up and trained to be soldiers. Not to deal with feelings and emotions like this. And I also liked seeing Crosshair honoring the clones. You know, when he finds the helmets sort of scattered randomly in the corner. That was quite a nice little moment. And again, particularly in that moment as well, the score was great. And Echo was back, of course.
Yeah, and that's cool. I liked Echo being back. I did say I'm kind of surprised we haven't really addressed Tech yet this season. Like,
he was mentioned though, wasn't he? Because
yeah, I think he was mentioned.
Reaction.
He's been mentioned, but not fully mourned or anything, which makes sense. I mean, I guess it's been a while, but I was kind of expecting more acknowledgement of Tech being gone and that to be mentioned more times, which would hint at then that he's going to come back. But so far, I haven't got the impression that that's going to happen.
Yeah, there was when they were all together. There was a brief, somehow Palpatine returns type drop of this, heavy information. And you saw, I think it was something like, well, that was when we had Tech or something, when they were trying to figure something out.
Yeah.
With Nala Say's console thing, I guess. And you see Crosshair react with his eyes. I think kind of dropped to the floor a little bit, but yeah, it was brushed over quite quickly. I think you're probably right. Maybe we're not going to get that, but then there's some out there who believe we're going to get Tech back in living form.
I think if we're going to get Tech back, it will happen next week, which is the kind of the middle part where we have 2 episodes drop at once. Usually on that, like at the end of episode 7 or 8 is their big like mid-season thing. That's the episodes where they're back to focusing on the plot in the show, but this show has been consistently with the plot. But we're going to have the villains actually be featured, I'm sure, next week.
Well, there was a question about the villains. Now you mentioned that from Mr. Galvan. Hope you're doing well. Long time no speak. Oh, and before I come on to this, Aunt V, who's a regular in the future, watching us back in the past, she did leave a comment on last week's stream saying, for all the people saying that there was no body, we didn't see a body of Tech, so no body, not necessarily dead. There were the goggles, right? The damaged goggles that were seen. But anyway, Mr. Galvan, Chad just mentioned villains. What do you all think about Royce Hemlock? I would like to see more of him. The show now feels as though it lacks a solid villain. I think this was the first episode without him, right? Or was 4 as well?
Yeah, I think this show's always kind of not been about like having a set villain. The other seasons didn't really have a set villain. I think that Royce is going to come in a lot more in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I agree.
Just like, Palpatine is obviously what we're seeing in this show is kind of like what we saw in Andor, where there's not necessarily like, well, there kind of is a set villain, but it's really just the minor people in the Empire at this time and what they're having to deal with.
Yeah, but Royce is a great villain, and like Chad said, I do think we'll see a lot more of him. And I don't know who the voice actor is, but he's very good character. Clay says, great episode. The squad is back together. 5 was a high 5, Peter says. Does that mean you're giving it 5? Or does this mean it's going to be even higher than 7.5? We'll find out later when Peter delivers his score. Peter also said a silly Star Wars monster was not spotted yet, and here it was. You knew it was coming after the Rumble. Yeah, Amiga's kind of like, you're talking about the sort of childish nature between Hunter and Crosshair. Like, in that situation particularly, Amiga feels like the adult in this episode, doesn't she?
Yeah. I thought Crosshair, when he confronts Hunter and is kind of telling him like, hey, you're the one that got her in danger, I was like, oh, he's not wrong. But like, what a bold thing to say.
At the mention of Tech, everyone looked so sad. Yeah, it was brief, but they did look sad. I don't know if it was my focus, but I noticed Crosshair more in that moment. I could Peter likes Echo's ship much more than the Batch ship. I've not actually thought about that. Is he the only one? What about you, Chad?
I pay so little attention to ships in Star Wars. It's weird, but it's like cars in real life for me. Like I'll be like, that looks cool, but I know nothing about it. And like I'm not a car guy. So ships, same thing. I'll be like, does it fly? Sweet.
Yeah.
So
What, do they
I
fly
like,
now?
yeah, I like certain ones, but I'm not too big into looking at those. But some people like they love that aspect of Star Wars. So it definitely could be cooler to those who look for that.
Yeah, Jane Flakes also appreciates a bit of Hemlock. He's fab, so controlled, so dark. Does he make it through the Rise of Skywalker? Well, does he make it through this season?
Yeah, I feel like the weirdest thing we've done here is we're ideally setting up for Palpatine to return, to explain that somewhat. But what happens to the Bad Batch and Omega and stuff? And how are we going to explain where they were in the future? I don't know. Star Wars they'll write a book about it. But I don't know if they're actually thinking of that.
The real question is, will Jane's body parts make it through the duration of this stream without getting glued to a Kindle? That's the biggest question, Jane. I hope so far they are surviving. All right. Well, we'll maybe get our scores in, I suppose, for episode 5. I already know yours because I listened to your podcast, Chad. And again, Chad does go into more detail on his podcast, so do go and check it out if you haven't already. I know some of you in the chat, we're all regulars here, we're all friends here. You might have already listened, but yeah, Chad, you go first.
Yeah, episode 4 I gave it an 8, and I think I gave episode 5 an 8 on the podcast. Did I do that?
You did give episode 8, episode 5 and 8. You did, yeah.
Okay, I was like, I thought that was it. Maybe it was an 8.5. I think an 8 is pretty dead on. So yeah, I'd say an 8. Jamie, you just got dropped some cash, my dude.
Oh, so Mr. Ken Napthok. Hello, Ken. Thank you very much, mate. Ken says, love this season. Rich themes. Team Stank Room. Yeah, Ken, it was good to hear from you the other day on the old WhatsApp, inquiring about my mysterious ways. But yeah, I'm hoping to see you soon in the flesh. But for now, in the YouTube chat form, we'll have to do. And of course, everybody knows Ken here. Everybody knows Ken here. But if there's somebody that does not know Ken here, go and check out, well, his own channel, Ken Napsop, but also Force Center as well, who always providing lots of quality, interesting and fun Star Wars content out there in podcast form and YouTube form as well. And the good news is that Jane remains unglued. Good for you and your body parts, Jane. And thank you again to Ken for the what super chat. That's what it's called, isn't it? Super chat.
Yeah.
Hemlock, voiced by Jimmy Simpson, who's been in Westworld and House of Cards. Okay, thank you very much. I'm gonna give it. So you're sticking with your 8. You haven't changed. You haven't changed your mind.
No, I don't think I have. I think it was because I gave the one with the Bad Batch that had a monster. I gave that a 7.5, and I think this had more weight and actually like moved the series along more. But it does get a mark down because it did kind of the same thing.
Do you remember all of my scores from last week? Matthew Stokes must. He's written them all down because I don't really remember. I kind of just make it up as I go along. But and also I'm a fickle man, so I can change them at any moment. But I don't feel like this was my favorite episode. However, I feel like it was my second favorite episode so far, and I kind of want to give it a 7.5, but I can't remember if I gave was episode 2 or 3.
Here, you gave Matthew's got it for you.
Oh, great! Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. So I give a 7, a 6.5, and a 7.5. I'm giving this a 7.3, baby. There you go. There you go. Second highest of the season, and 5 is average. This is well above average. That's just a kind of.
Is this for 4 or 5?
That was 5. I did 4, didn't I? 4. I gave a 6.5 again.
Okay. Yep. Got it.
Yeah. This is a 7.3. It's staying at 7.3 for now. So the Yorkshire Imperial was voiced by an actor called Harry Lloyd, who was born in London. But most notably, which is not Yorkshire, by the way, Chad. But most notably is Charles Dickens' great grandson. There you go. Matthew Stokes is full of stats and facts.
That's amazing.
We can call him Stato and Facto. There we go. Thank you very much.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, scores in for episode 5 if you haven't already. I'm interested. Did we get Peter's? I know he said a high 5, and I don't mean
he said 5.
Is he actually giving it a 5?
I think so. I think he's giving
it a 5 as in like he liked it.
Oh, I think he meant 5 is a good 5.
Jane
I could be wrong.
was considering giving it the same score as 4. However, the lack of love for the Empire might well knock a point off, but she hasn't confirmed that. So all I'm seeing at the moment is 10 out of 12 based on Jane's Imperial metric system thing. Okay, it's coming. It's coming. Here we go for episode 5 from Peter. A well-deserved drum roll. Oh my God.
Wow.
It's an 8.
That was your favorite episode so far?
He's not able to respond verbally. Well, we were both listening, waiting for him to shout out, like, yes, it was.
Like, what?
We're waiting in the chat. Drum roll again. Ross asking, is that Ken from the old Collider days? Ken Knapsack, who's still going strong. Check out his own channel. And for Star Wars related stuff, Force Center as well. Force Center podcast.
Yeah, I remember Ken from, there was a thing called Movie Schmodown. And he was on that once in a while. I loved that. It was a great game show.
Yeah, and Ken was with Collider, was very kind. He is very kind. It wasn't just a one-off to have me as a guest on Jedi Council, which I'm sure as Star Wars fans who watch Collider, you'll remember.
Definitely.
I think the first time I met Ken actually in person.
Is it still going? Do they still do that podcast? They do, don't they?
I don't know. I haven't seen anything Collider related.
Collider's changed now entirely, as far as I am aware.
Yeah, I don't know. But all you need to know is that the Geeknd's going, Star Wars Lunch Special's going, and Force Center is going as well. So you can find Ken there. And also on this channel from time to time as well, including in Lightspeed Tonight. Don't remind me of that. That's becoming like Rebels now. Like, have I edited any of those 5 episodes I recorded like over a year ago? Have I edited at least one of them yet? No. No. Maybe I edit an episode for every season of Rebels I complete from now on. Maybe that. Maybe that. I am getting to. I'm really missing. So I'm doing since coming back to the UK, even though I'm barely in the UK, because I say freelance. But I'm actually pretty much doing it full time at the moment, but it is a freelance, there's no contract job, is involving me traveling so much. And what I'm doing is hosting, I'm broadcasting. So I am doing kind of what I trained to do, study to do, etc. So in some ways I'm scratching a creative ish, but in so many ways I'm not. And that makes me want to really dust off that hard drive and get stuck into an episode of Lightspeed Tonight, because I'm paying every month for the Adobe Premiere Suite, which I say I am. Chad, you are contributing to that as a Patreon contributor, so thank you very much. It's still there and it's not being used. So I am getting itchy. Feet. So we will hopefully get that done soon.
I guarantee you. My partner in the States here, Tyler. Mm-hmm. You met Tyler.
Yeah.
He I guarantee you, if you asked him, he would edit them for you. Guarantee.
Yeah, I sort of have a thing about not when you can't pay somebody I don't like, and I know you're saying he would not worry about that, but I still have that kind of thing about it. But yeah, one day. I also, actually, Lightspeed Tonight it's easy to edit because you follow what Ramirez is saying.
Right.
And there's probably Womeris is pretty good, but there's probably about 3 takes for every chunk of monologue,
Right.
because it's not live, it is pre-recorded. So it's the kind of the heavy part of the editing is getting all of the images together and dealing with stuff I don't really understand, like the green screen, trying to make that as good as possible. So it's a sort of different type of edit. So actually it's one I'd be more happy to hand over, but actually still I need to be making the images or getting them together still. So it's sort of one I hand over, but at the same time I'm still doing most of it, if you know what I mean. So but anyway, thank you, Tyler. Not that you actually offered yourself, but thank you, Chad, for offering Tyler's services.
He's used to this. This is how we do business.
Maybe one day.
Tyler will do it for free. Yeah.
I'm not sure what this is in relation to, but Peter expects nothing less from now on. If in the Empire,
because he thought episode 5 was the best by far.
Oh, okay. So now you're expecting to go up and up and up because you had 7.5 for 4, 8 for 5. Will do. He was always highly amusing on Collider. That's where I came across you, Jamie. Yeah, I mean, Ken has introduced me to so many of you, really. Ken's really supported me individually and the channel in its various forms over the years. And he is still highly amusing, Ross, I can confirm. So look up Force Center and his own channel, which if you go up in the chat, it's he's logged in as his channel in the chat. I get your scores in for episode 5 if you haven't already, because I think we're close to wrapping up.
I think we've only got a couple scores in so far. We had Peter, Jane.
It is a life debt, a Wookiee life debt. We won't say where this debt's come from. That's our little secret. But yes, Ken is in a lot of debt. David's here as well. And it is, Ken's fault that David's here as well. Not just today, like last week as well. And for quite a few years going back now. And I think that's the same for quite a lot, including Mr. Matthew Stokes. Okay. We might have had everybody's score in. Some people don't like to give scores, and that's fine. I only give them now because we started doing that, and I just feel like it's just a thing. But David does, and he's giving it a big, whopping, perfect 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Maybe. Yeah, well, that's as good as it gets. What you got to say about that, Peter?
Yeah, wow. I'm surprised Peter gave it an 8. I mean, I thought it was really good. I just didn't think it was the best.
Yeah, and if Peter gives something an 8, you should really expect a 10 from everybody else. But it's an 8 from Clays. Yeah. It's an 8 from Clays. 8 out of 10 from Clays. Maybe we've got everybody's scores because it's quite quiet. I think we're probably doing this a bit too early for people, definitely in the UK and possibly Europe in general. It's like Central European time is 1 hour ahead of UK time, GMT. So it's possibly a little bit quiet for that reason. And also just because it's always quiet. But David loved it and cried multiple times.
Wow, that's great though. I mean, I'm glad it did that for you. Oh, Stokes's.
Wow, this is wait, what was his?
It was 6.99 for episode 4.
He's gone down.
Yeah, I thought it was on par with 4, and I guess 0.99 and 0.75 are not that big of a difference, but.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there we go. We've got the lowest score in there from Mr. Matthew Stokes, 6.75. The highest score coming in from David, which was a 10 out of 10. And it's true. It's well above average. So it's not a bad score. It's not a bad score. All right, then. Well, I think that's probably it. Chad, anything you'd like to add before I click end stream?
No, I look forward to seeing all you next week. There are 2 episodes dropping next week. And as always, you can find Star Wars Lunch Special, my podcast, on wherever you get podcasts. And then the Alamo Studio, you can look for us on YouTube. We just haven't been posting anything recently, but we got a lot coming out from me anyway, because we all kind of do separate things and just use that one creative logo to release our things. But my stuff is coming out this year.
Cool. I look forward to that. And I have linked to the YouTube channel and the podcast in the video description. So thank you, Chad, once again for joining us. Thank you, everybody here in real time in the chat, and who's ever here, but who's here as well, who's not in the chat. And also, if you're watching in the future as well. We will be back next week, so we'll cover both of those episodes next week. We're up to date. We're going to be up to date, which is
nice.
Good. Yeah. We'll definitely be up to date for the next few weeks. Then might have to do it in chunks for a bit because I gotta travel again. I gotta hit the road, hit the air again from April 7th. But for now, we're all good. So next week, we'll do it again. So thank you, Chad. I see you've now moved on to Force Awakens, so you'll now be sitting there for the next 7 days with it on loop, waiting for the stream to begin.
Yep, so, exactly. I
don't
move from here. This is where I sleep.
Don't you dare move, okay? Right, we're gonna start waving because the waving emojis have started. So thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your week, good weekend, and we'll do this again next week. So I am clicking end stream. You know what you got to do until it actually ends. I have clicked end. So keep waving.